Hello everyone. Now we've covered the introduction to Quality Center. I've shown you the dashboard, how it looks, and we've created a release and also cycles within a specific release, and also created a requirement and assigned that requirement to a specific release, so you can have tracking, right? So from there, obviously, if you remember the flow chart which we looked at earlier, for the release we created 3 cycles, and from there we created some requirements. From now requirements, we'll have to write test cases and link these test cases to the requirement which we are talking about, right? So this is a linkage which we need to do in Quality Center, and this is what I will be showing you in this session of how to create a test case in Quality Center and then assign it to a specific requirement, right? Hello everyone. So far we've covered Quality Center, the main dashboard, how it looks like, how we can add releases and cycles and then assign requirements to these releases and cycles. Now we come to the most important thing, is creating the test cases in the test plan module, right? So you created the test cases and you assign it to the requirement, so you have traced the requirement to the specific test case, and therefore you can ensure that all requirements are adequately covered, right? So we'll cover the test plan structure, how do you design tests, and the test plan module. Okay, now what is the test plan? It is a repository of test cases, right, and it can be accessed in the test plan section of the Quality Center. And you would start designing test cases only after the requirements are baseline. So it is not possible to start test cases before requirements are baseline. The main reason being is, if your requirements are not baseline, your test case will keep changing, and then you will not have a stable test set to run your execution on, right? Now how does this work? Just developing the test plan consists of the steps which is mentioned here, right? So you create a test strategy, then you come to the defining of tests. When you define tests, you assign them to requirements. So obviously you are verifying requirement coverage. From requirement coverage, from there you design the test steps, and then you finally analyze your test plan, right? So the key elements in the test plan module are developing the test plan tree, designing the tests, designing the test steps, that is the actual steps which you need to execute, and the expected outcomes, right? So now for creating a test plan, you will go and create a new folder. I will show this to you on Quality Center as well. I'm just taking you through the process before I show that in Quality Center, right? And you can add all these types of tests in Quality Center, which is manual, business process, automated, system test, etc. Right now our focus is manual test, because we're doing only manual test case creation. Automation is a different thing altogether, right? So you will select manual from new test, and then you'll be able to add a new test case under the test plan tree for the folder you created, and then you can add a description. So basically, when you create this, you can see the test case name, you can see who is the designer based on who is logged in, the creation date, and other information of this specific test case, right? And after that is done, you can go to each and every individual step, and you can create steps. So you write step 1, and say, for example, if you were creating a test case for the Gmail application, so you will say go to gmail.com. The expected outcome for that would be Gmail web page is loaded correctly. The next, with login and password fields. The next step will be enter correct username and password, click on login. So the user should be logged in successfully is the expected outcome. So this is what you need to enter in your steps. The more detailed your steps are, less ambiguity they'll have later when you're executing a test case. So it will be easier to find defects and not have defects wherein you'll have to close the defect because the test case was poorly designed. So it is very important to be very clear in your description of the step, what you need to perform, and also what is the expected outcome. There should be no ambiguity in that, right? So like for the example which I mentioned, so you want to launch Gmail, you enter a correct user ID and enter a correct password and then click on login. So you will have a step for this test case which says step 1 launch gmail.com. Then you will go to Gmail, that the expected result for this step will be gmail.com page should open up correctly. You will enter the user ID, and whatever user ID you enter in the text box should be visible on the page, right? The third step will be enter password. The password is visible but maybe with asterisks. So this is based on the requirements, whether it should be displayed, how it should be displayed in that field, right? And the fourth step is click on sign in. Once you click on sign in, the user is logged in to the correct email account of Gmail, right? That's how you'll be defining the test steps. Right, now we're back on the quality center screen, and say we've come to the test plan tab, and over there you created a folder called 2013. Now in that, let us create a new test case. So as soon as you create a new test case, you have to enter the test case name. So for example, we say launch the web application or launch the Gmail application, for example, and creation date and admin is here, and you can put a short description. So the description which you enter will be shown on sorry, in the right hand side panel, which you can see here in quality center. So here we will write the description of the test which we are creating, correct? So as soon as you click on OK, a new test is created. Now you can see that there are many tabs on the right hand side here, correct? So there is details, and there is design steps, there is parameters, attachments, requirement coverage, link to defects, right? So here in the details tab, it shows you launch the application. It says the test is a manual one, and the test steps which you will be creating will be in the design steps tab, right? So you will enter step 1 description saying go to www.gmail.com, expected result is Gmail page is loaded. So this is where you'll keep adding new steps, and we can create a test case here. Now if you see attachments, you can attach a specific say a system requirement specification folder, or you can attach a specific document for this test case, or any test data set which you want to attach here, so that people who are executing the test case, it may not be you who is going to execute the test case later, it can be anybody else. So based on that, you may attach a specific attachment here. The requirement coverage is what we were talking of in the previous session, where you link this test case to the requirement which you have created in the requirements tab. Thereby, when you run this test case in your test execution phase, you can see that this test case linked to this requirement, say requirement number 1, has passed or failed. So it gives you a better idea on how the project is running. Right, coming to the design steps for this test case which you are trying to create. Now you can see here new step, right? When you click on new step, you will see that a new dialog box opens, and you will be entering a description for that step, and you will say go to whichever application we are talking about, and enter the expected result as well, right? And you will say launch Internet Explorer, and user should be able to launch the application successfully. The minute you click on OK, a new step is created for you here, right? And you can keep on adding new steps as required based on your test case details. So you may have 4 steps if you have a test case which says you enter user ID, another step says enter password, and then enter logins. You'll have multiple number of steps based on the number of steps you have on the test case, and you keep on adding new steps from here. Now coming to the most important tab here, which links your test case to the requirements. You have to click on the requirements tab, right, and then it shows you whatever requirements have been created, right, in the requirements tab earlier by us. Based on that, you select which requirement is linked to this specific test case, and you click on the left arrow here. So then it assigns this test case to this requirement. Okay. Right now there are no linked defects, so the linked defects is blank. Right. So in the test plan module, you create requirements coverage by selecting the requirement, and you link to a test like I showed you here in Quality Center. Right. So basically you select the requirement and you assign it there. So basically we have covered how to log into Quality Center, how to create a release, cycles for that release, thereafter create requirements, assign it to a specific release, right, and then create a test case, add a couple of steps to that test case in Quality Center, and then assign it to your requirements. So this is all what we've covered in this entire session. The next session where I'll be covering is how to import these test cases into the test lab, execute them, mark them as passed or failed as based on the status which we discussed earlier, and if it is failed, how do we proceed further for logging defects and how it gets linked to the requirements, right. Thank you.